Hi guys! Alright, so today I'm going to be filming my June wrap-up video, and I read a crap ton of books in June. So I'm going to start first with the books that I read that were on my TBR list, and the first one of them is Insurgent by Veronica Roth. I adore this book. Like, Divergent was super good, Insurgent was super good. I was, like, real happy with the way the events played out in this book. I can't say too terribly much because of the fact that there are massive spoilers in this book, but if you want to check out my review on this book, there will be a link down in the description box. The next book I read in the month of June that was on my TBR list was The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I actually just picked this book up yesterday, finished it in a day. I was pretty happy with this book, actually, as far as middle grade fiction goes. I was really anxious about reading this, but I think it turned out pretty well. So yeah, good for you, Rick Riordan. I will probably be picking up more of your books in the near future. The next book that was on my TBR list is one of the heftier ones that I had to read this month, and that is The Cuckoos Calling by Robert Galbraith, who is J.K. Rowling. That's her surname, or her pen name, excuse me. And this was one that was on my challenge list as a book that I read the first time and couldn't finish. I think maybe the first time I read this I just wasn't in the right mindset. I was pretty happy with this book the second time I read it, and the review for this book will also be posted soon. The next book that I read on my TBR list was also part of the challenge, and it is A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray. I love this book, and the rest of the series is sitting on my shelf right now waiting to be read. If you like Victorian London, supernatural type books with witches and cults and all that fun jazz, check out A Great and Terrible Beauty by Libba Bray and the rest of the series, which I'm sure will be phenomenal. The next book that I read was Paper Towns by John Green. This book started out pretty slow for me. It was kind of an book. I love John Green, and I will continue to love John Green and read his books. Just because this book wasn't necessarily one of my favorites doesn't mean that I don't adore his writing all of the same. The last book that was on my TBR list that I read this month was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This book was one that I borrowed from the library instead of buying myself, just because I wasn't terribly sure about what I would think of this book. I will say that I was very happy with this book. The illustrations on the inside are gorgeous. They add a lot to this book, and I think that without them, this book might be missing a decent amount of its content because of how much the illustrations add to the storyline. If you haven't read this book, I would highly suggest going out to pick it up right away. Now comes to the books that I just randomly decided would probably be a good idea to pick up. That was rather foolish of me, because I read a lot. So the first book was Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and it was one of the first books that I got on my Kindle, and I was very happy with it. The ending kind of left me a little meh, because of the fact that it was ridiculously open-ended, and I know that the other two books in this trilogy, yes, are both focusing on different fairy tale characters. So I have not read the other two books yet. I will be picking them up soon, and hopefully my questions that followed at the end of Cinder will be answered in Scarlet and Cress. The other book that I read that was on my Kindle was The Underground Girls of Kabul by Jenny Nordberg, and oh my god. I don't normally like nonfiction, but this book, like, hit me in my heart and just made me feel things for those women, and just, it focuses on what life is like growing up as a woman and just being born into a family as a female in Kabul, but this just, I don't have words to describe how well this book was written and the feelings that this book made me feel. There are issues that need to be addressed, people. Issues that need to be addressed, and that is one of them. So after reading The Underground Girls of Kabul, I needed something light and kind of silly, and I picked up First Comes Love by Katie Kekvinsky. This book is, I believe, new adult fiction, and is a contemporary, and it's super short, and it took me like a day to read. It didn't take me terribly long at all. This book focuses on two characters named Dylan and Gray, and I adore this book. Like, if I ever read a new adult book that focuses on relationships and struggles, it better be like this one, because I felt that this gave a really raw and open view of what relationships are actually like, instead of the fluff that books normally tend to throw at readers. So this was beautiful. There are 2 other books in this series, and I believe the second one is out. So yeah, I will definitely be picking those up and adding them to my TBR list. The next book that I read is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I actually picked up this volume that contains all 3 of them. So The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. Mostly because I have had serious issues trying to find the first one. So when I found all 3, I just grabbed it. I definitely thought that The Summer I Turned Pretty was a great contemporary summery read, light, definitely a quick read, and a great follow-up to First Comes Love. The next book that was on my I read in June. The next book that I read in June was Shatter Me by Turea Mafi. I was kind of hesitant about this book going in because I'm really picky with my young adult dystopians, and the cover definitely sold me on this book. I mean, look at it. It is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I pretty much enjoyed this book. There were a couple of things I had issues with, but for the most part, I was really excited about this book. I do not own the rest of this trilogy yet, but I will definitely be picking it up in the near future. And the last book that I read in the month of June was Allegiant. Do I really need to say anything about this book? Alright guys, so that's all of the books that I read in June. I will be posting my TBR video later this week. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like, post book ideas and suggestions, I guess, down in the comments. Follow me on Twitter for more updates, and have a great rest of June, which is today. Oh.